5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are live. Hello and welcome to PropTechBuzz, a business podcast on global PropTech, where we talk to PropTech founders, CEOs, and VCs from the PropTech industry and learn from them how to build and scale successful PropTech companies. Today, I'm thrilled to have with me a guest that I have been pursuing for a long, long time, Christina Moyer, who is the founder and CEO of Einwert, the first hybrid appraiser in real estate valuation. They are the first European hybrid appraiser, reimagining real estate valuation as a whole new ESG compliant value experience. As you could see, it was a mouthful for me because I just copied this text from their website. But we are here today to talk with the founder and the CEO to understand what does a hybrid appraiser mean. But before I invite my guest today, I would like to make a request to all our listeners out there. If you have been listening to our content, then please, and have not yet hit that like and subscribe button, please do that, because the more number of people hit like and subscribe, the wider is the reach of this content. We have had some very fascinating guests in the past. We have some really interesting guests in the future. So for us to reach to a wider audience, and if you like our content, then hit that like and subscribe button. We are also on audio only, available content on Spotify. So go there, search for PropTechBuzz, and you will find us there, and leave some nice reviews out there as well. With that, let's welcome Christina. Christina, welcome to PropTechBuzz. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here today, Ravi. And looking forward to our conversation. I'm feeling good. I hope you're feeling good as well.
I'm feeling so much good because I've been waiting in anticipation. Last time I saw you, also you are visiting US. I think you mentioned that, and I was waiting for you to come back and tell us all the stories. And first of all, what are you up to with Einwert? So before we talk about Einwert, why don't we start with your personal background, your career trajectory, and your transition story of building Einwert?
Yeah, sure. Happy to share that. So, my background originally is civil engineering. That's at least what I studied long time ago. And right after that time, I started a PhD. And the PhD then was about real estate valuation, which was actually completely new to me because real estate valuation has, actually no space or no place in the studies of civil engineering. So it was a complete new topic, although it's very familiar with each other, right? So as a civil engineer, you are building real estate, and then after that, you are as an engineer, you're finished, and then the actual time of the real estate starts, where also real estate valuation counts into. So that was what I was doing, and at that time, I was developing an algorithm that is, let's say, calculating one of the most important input factors in real estate valuation, and that was what I was doing at that time. And right after that, I was working for an international real estate fund based here in Germany. So I was working there for quite a time, and I had a lot of valuations to do, even though I was a fund manager at that time. But valuation is crucial. I mean, it's the basis for any investments, right? So this is actually also where my journey in the real estate valuation continued. And during that time, actually, I realized that this industry has a lot of big problems. So I think here with PropTechBuzz, you know quite well how antiquated this whole real estate and construction industry is in general, right? This is also why PropTech exists. And so is real estate valuation. It's exactly the same. And in a real estate fund, you also work most of the time manually. There's not much software out there, or at least not as well established as it should be. And when starting a new fund, you're buying new properties, and you need, first of all, to evaluate those to check whether they match or fit your return requests, and so on. And this is what I got to do. So I had to evaluate a lot of properties that could be potential fits for our funds. And so this is how I got in contact with it. And right after my part, I was then required by law to work with external appraisers, like
Mm.
external independent appraisers. And this is actually where the fun part of my job started.
Mm.
Because, yeah, like, of course, their work was also super manual. So it was like all of them were nice people. I love working together with them. We worked together quite often for any evaluation I had to carry out. But their way of working was as manual as my way of working at that time was. So, of course, it took them very, very long to write one single appraisal. So,
Mm.
as you can imagine, in transactions, that's a huge thing because in transactions, you have to be fast. There are
Mm.
so many others investors who are interested in this very same property. So, if you don't make the deal, they will. That means you are not allowed to invest into this property as a real estate fund without having an independent price opinion, an independent appraisal in your hands. So I was
Mm.
always asking them, guys, can you please go faster? I need this very, very urgently. I want to close this deal. Yeah,
So when we say it takes time, how much time usually an external appraiser manually would do?
so it mainly depends on the asset class. But if we talk about real estate funds, then we're not talking about single family homes, right? We are talking, of course, about big assets. We're talking about shopping centers, office buildings, and so any asset class, but of course, bigger sizes. And
Mm.
yeah, it can take up to 6 weeks to have such a in
Wow,
hand.
6 weeks.
Um, yeah, 6 weeks from, let's say, ordering the appraisal until finally have it in your hands. So
Wow.
most of the time, it was the first thing in my job that I ordered, even before I was talking to lawyers for this whole transaction deal. So it was the first thing I was ordering and the last thing that was delivered.
Hmm. Wow. And we are talking about mostly commercial appraisals because funding, but real estate funds, are they also interested in residential appraising? Or?
Yeah, of course. But residential properties can also be commercially used, right? Like
Hmm.
multifamily homes, for example, are also part of commercial real estate, while it's still residential, but it's not privately held.
Got it.
Of course, I also had residential properties, but really huge multifamily homes in this case. Yeah.
Got it. Excellent. So I'm liking the build. It's a hero story. So you talked about a problem that you faced, and now the hero emerges, right? So now any entrepreneur would see that, okay, there is a problem here to be solved. So what happened next?
Yeah, well, I was working there for several years, so I was experiencing this issue for quite a long time, and there was even more. Not only the speed, but I mean, if your partners, like appraisers, if they work completely manually, that means Word and Excel is their best friend. That
Hmm.
means, of course, on the one side, the speed I was talking about, but also I had a lot of work to do with it. Like I was at the beginning when ordering the appraisal, it was most of the time a huge story of email ping pong. Here is what I need. Oh, what exactly do you need? Well, here is the tenant list. Oh, there's something missing. So playing email ping pong all the time. And in the end, receiving those appraisals, which have up to 100 pages. They are huge documents because there's so much valuable input in it. Those appraisers, what they do is they carry out huge market analysis, location analysis. Also, they analyze the whole property if there are any, let's say, quacks or whatever. So, of course, valuable input packed into 100 pages of PDF documents. And then you, as a fund manager, receive this thing, holding it in your hand, and yeah, then you have the problem because you need all those valuable information, but PDF is not a real digital format, right? So you
Hmm.
need then to type everything out of the PDF into your system to use this type of data further for your fund strategy, for example. So that was
Hmm.
the next step, and this is now where Einwert comes into play. So of course, that was a hard time for me, and I was suffering a lot from it. It was really, really annoying to do all this manual work on my side and also seeing the appraisers working manually, letting me wait for quite a long while. And this is actually where the point came where I was saying, hey guys, I have a very strong background in valuation. I know exactly what I'm doing. I have a PhD in this topic. And yeah, on the other hand, I'm a really, really, like, I love technology. So I'm really into it. And I know that this thing, like this valuation process, can be carried out much better, much easier with today's technology. I mean, if you simply look at what we have on our smartphones, where you can take pictures of texts or newspapers, and Siri is reading out loud what is written there. So there is a lot of easy technology out there, but why isn't this used in our industry? And this was simply, yeah, where I made the decision to improve all this and to build a company that is streamlining this antiquated process from A to Z. That means for both sides, for the fund manager or any other, let's say, any other company out there who is in need of appraisals, but on the same side, on the same hand, actually streamlining it for the appraisers themselves so that they also get rid of all the manual busy work. And yeah, by this streamlining the whole process, of course, making it more efficient and releasing the pain that both sides have.
Got it. I get that. So if I were to ask you to summarize what Einwert does today, what would it be? I was imagining you also do automated valuation. Is that right? Or are you working with a manual appraiser and making them efficient?
Uh, both is true. So we are partly automating valuation. That means we are in a space that is highly regulated. A fully automated valuation is not allowed for real estate funds. Nowhere in the world it's allowed. That simply means you need to have an independent human who is signing an appraisal and stamping it. That's the main reason, and this is why fully automated valuation is not allowed. So what we at Einwert do, we are a hybrid version. That means we mix the human expert, like that means the certified appraiser, with the right tech under one roof. So that means we have a super smart, right now we have a super smart in-house appraisal team, which is not our main platform goal for the long run. And on the other hand, we have super smart technology that is streamlining the process without replacing the appraiser, which is simply not allowed from regulatory side.
Very, very interesting.
Mhm.
So, first of all, could you? I wanted to talk about your company, but maybe let's also dig in a little bit about the fundamentals, right? So, appraising today, when a physical manual appraiser takes 6 weeks, what is he looking at? Is he looking only the interiors or the valuation of the property? Also, the input is also about the neighborhood and the locality and stuff like that, right? So let's talk about what all goes into contribute the valuation of a property, because there are so many different valuation with different parameters. So why don't you help us understand what goes in to come up with an accurate valuation?
Yeah, of course. I mean, location, first of all, is of course one of the most important factors, right? So let's say, imagine you have an apartment. If it's, for example, here in beautiful Munich, Germany, and you have an apartment in Munich city center, then no matter how bad the apartment looks, it has a very high value. So of course, location is super important. But there is, especially in this regulated space, much more than only this. And this is what makes it completely different from automated valuation, because this location is mainly what goes into automated valuation systems. There are quite a lot, quite nice systems out there. But what then comes also, yeah, into play is, of course, everything about the property itself. That means how old is it? When have they carried out the last, yeah, let's say, improvement of the roof? Or whatever. So all of these information that are really property related. Then you have also a legal point. So for example, if you look at in Germany, we call it land registry. So every piece of land owns is owned by someone out there, and there is some legal information about it. For example, there is something written about if you have a mortgage on it or not, or if, for example, it's your piece of land, but someone else has the right to live there forever. This is, of course, something that has a high impact on the value of your property. And this is also the legal part of it, which no automated valuation model in the world takes into account, right? So those are also things that make sense, that they also are influencing the value of your property, together with all the market information. And yeah, so it's location, market, property, and legal surrounding.
So this is very, very interesting, and this is what it makes is powerful. Okay, and I know of companies that are only doing automated valuations.
Yeah.
I know that the customer, especially banks or the funds, they take multiple appraisers. They take AVM's output, they take other AVM. I do not know if they also take physical appraisers output, because it kills the purpose. If they actually need physical appraiser, why would they go for an automated valuation, right? But tell me one thing: if you are anyways also taking physical, the delay is bound to happen, right? Because you're not reducing the speed of valuation, because anyways you need to do the land registry, legal. Help me understand how bringing the two worlds together is making it more efficient in terms of time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you compare the time span of 6 weeks to, let's say, 10 seconds that an automated valuation needs, then
Yeah.
there's a lot in between. So,
Mm.
what our software is doing regarding the efficiency of the valuation process in total is that all of these specific factors I was talking about, they get partly automated. So, that means, for example, the land registry. We have an algorithm that automatically reads, like, those are PDF documents that you can get from the registry courts and so on. So we automatically scrape those. So we get them automatically into our software, and then we scrape the input automatically. So there's no appraiser sitting there anymore typing this into his appraisal. This is what our software is doing. And also the same with, let's say, location analysis. So based on the address that the client is inserting when ordering an appraisal, based on this, we have a lot of algorithms working, scraping all the information where, let's say, is the next supermarket. So nearby points of interest. Yeah, but the difference to what automated valuation models do in this point is that we show the results to the appraisers who are using the software, so that they can, if they want, choose the facts that they want to have included in their appraisals. Because in the end, appraisers always must have, like, it's their will. Like, they are certified, they have the highest qualification, and if the software puts something into their appraisal which they don't, let's say, accept, then they wouldn't sign it. So they always need to have the choice, whichever information you provide them with, to choose from, if this is exactly what they want to include.
So is your customer the appraiser because you are making him more powerful, or who's your end user, or who's your end target customer?
Our target customers are real estate funds, banks, insurances, family offices, tax advisors. So everyone out there who is in need of appraisals regularly. Only B2B, like not private persons. And they can order appraisals via our platform. So they have their own access. And we also offer APIs connected to their system, so that they can send any information they have about their properties immediately via those APIs or via the platform to order an appraisal. So this is the one part of it. And then the second part is that we work together with, on the one hand, internal appraisers. I can tell you more about that later if you want. Now, at the moment, we also have internal appraisers. We are still very young, but we also have external partner appraisers. So the step then is, as soon as we have an order an appraisal order, we then mandate one of our partner appraisers out there in the market. At the moment, the market is Germany. So wherever the property is situated, let's say it's Berlin, then we have a partner appraiser in Berlin, and he then goes there to inspect the property and writes the appraisal in our software. And by this, we can guarantee that this whole process is speeded up dramatically.
Okay, so this physical appraiser uses your software and comes with faster appraisal, and then it is up to him to choose which are the parameters he is willing to put in. Am I right?
Exactly.
Okay. Or he might is there any specific request also being made by the client, like the funds who actually give you the mandate that, hey, we are looking at appraisals for these parameters? Does it come as part of the request as well?
So the part of the request is the asset class of the property, and that means if you mean parameters of the appraiser or appraisal, that means asset class, certification level of the appraiser. Of course, that's important. So there are different certifications out there, and some clients require the highest standard, like something that you have to work for at least 5 or 6 years to get this certification. So very high standards, and those are the parameters they can ask for.
Mhm. So you qualify as a hybrid appraiser because you have partnered with a physical appraiser. Okay, so you have an AVM, and then there's and now you are legally approved for doing appraisals, isn't it?
Exactly. So
Um, yeah.
yeah.
So AVMs and a pure play AVM who does not partner with a physical appraiser would not qualify for such mandates. Is that the right way to put?
Exactly. It's a completely different market actually.
Mm.
So if you do certified appraisals that really are, let's say, yeah, they are also allowed in court. For
Mhm.
example, if you have a lawsuit and it's about the value of your property, then AVMs don't count at all, right? It's nothing
Right.
reliable. So
Mhm.
this is also a very, very, very big difference to AVMs. And also the way the value is calculated is completely different. While AVMs are most of the time a black box that is, yeah, like it's statistics. So AVMs work very, very well in areas of high density, like high population density, high property density, of course, and they work perfectly fine for portfolios. If you go on the single property level, then it's it's more or less it can be a good guess, but it also can be the opposite, right?
Mm.
And while in our appraisals you are following the international valuation standards, that
Mm.
means those are exactly so those are regulated methods how to calculate values. So they are different, like, so the way how to get to the value conclusion also is very different.
Help me understand. Are there? Does it have obviously, real estate is very local, but the valuation models or the valuation appraising standards, is there a global standard, or it depends upon country to country?
Like there are global standards, and in most of the most of the countries in the world they are accepted. Let's say the calculation basis, like the math behind it, is the same everywhere in the world. So for investment properties like office buildings, multifamily homes, the method to choose is discounted cash flow method.
Mm.
So you also know it from company valuation and so on. So
Right.
that's the basis. So you simply discount the cash flows of the future to today,
Right.
and that's the basis everywhere in the world. There are specific, let's say, rules about the different input parameters. For example, what exactly counts as cash flow, and
Mm.
this can differ in the different countries,
Right.
but the basis, the math, is the same everywhere in the world.
Got it. So usually what happens is when you are building your own AVM, okay, the AVM part of it, not the physical part of it, the model and its output, the valuation is provided is completely dependent on the data, right? So how do you get the same data, and do you keep adding with the recent transactions and stuff like that? Like, how I'm talking about accuracy, I'm talking about integrity of information.
Yeah, so we are working together closely with different very common, let's say, transaction databases, which are important. I mean, to have comparables, even if you are writing an appraisal, not an AVM,
Right.
is of course key because you need to quote them and explain them. This is one part where we get them from. We also do web scraping, where we look at market reports that you know from big companies, big brokers out there who are publishing it every month or every 3 months, every quarter, depending on that. So we actually provide to the appraiser different sources of data
Mm-hmm.
that they can use, for their calculation or as a basis to compare their results with the market. And this is what we are working on. But another thing, and this is very, very crucial for our business case, is since we are a hybrid appraiser, we work with only proprietary data. If you want to have an appraisal, of course, you need to give the appraiser all information you have. You need to give the appraiser always your tenant list, your documents, actually the contract, the purchase contract. So this is all the data we have, and by this we are building up a proprietary database that is invaluable, right? Because with every appraisal we do for our clients, we collect even more proprietary, non-public data.
Hmm. Got it. I understand. How about transaction data? Like,
Transaction data?
yes.
Exactly. So we always receive the purchase price, the purchase
Okay.
price.
So, okay, got it. Um, and what about the coverage? So you said Germany, and usually when you are in a business, your clients are always asking you for coverage. Okay, how many buildings are under your radar and stuff like that. So what about coverage today for you?
So at the moment we are working only in Germany. So we started our business last year, and of course always trying to get our software even better and better. We are of course using, as you just were asking, using a lot of data. So at the moment this data is most of the time related to Germany. And but yeah, we have big plans. I mean, our goal is definitely not to stay in Germany only. This is simply our home base. This is where we
No.
started, and
So I meant about Germany. Within Germany, are you covered all the assets,
yeah,
or
oh yeah.
are there pockets like cities, Hamburg, Berlin, and Munich and stuff like that?
No, we are now covering whole Germany. So all regions in Germany are covered. And we started at the beginning. We started with residential buildings only, like multifamily homes, but also smaller ones if necessary. And we are now covering more and more asset classes. So office is, of course, one of the biggest things here. So this is also what we included. And next is logistics and retail and so on. This is all coming pretty
So
soon.
help me understand. I know of some companies who are focused on either residential or commercial because the valuation is different there. They just want to be specialized on residential or commercial. You are saying all kinds of asset class. Is it easy to do all kinds of asset classes when on the software side of valuation? Help me understand how different the asset classes valuations are.
Yeah. So let's say, as we started with residential, this is of course the first market we got into, and it's one of the biggest markets out there. So it was not a bad choice. Let's say it like this. But of course, the more special the asset class is, the more adaptation you need to do in the software. So
Mm,
this is why we decided to go on office buildings next, because
mm,
they have very much in common. They can be let's say, as plain vanilla as residentials can be. While if
correct.
you then go further and further and further, and then you say, okay, we are now looking at hotels. We are now looking at logistics. Then it gets more and more complex. So that means we need to adapt our software more and more. And this is simply because different databases, for example, but also different standards to look at different things that are important in the value itself. So yeah.
And you are primarily about transactions, that means sales, not rental prices for residential, no? Because there are some players who are also doing rental. Well, like what is the standard rent for us for a specific space? Are you into
Um,
rentals or only transactions?
No, it's like, I mean, the value of a property is like the price. But
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course, as part of the valuation, and we are talking about discounted cash flow methods, the cash flow is important. So what we do definitely is we need to estimate future market rents in the
Hmm.
valuation.
Got it.
So that's part of it. And this is exactly also where our software supports the appraisers, because
Got
this
it.
is something that you can base on statistics, for example.
Got it. The other question is on how do you keep the model up to date with the market changes? You all know, right? In the last year or so, market precipitously dropped and stuff like that. So how do you account that your model is taking care of market changes? Do you keep training your model? Because training model is a big headache, right? How do you manage market changes into your modeling?
And this is something that is very actually good for being an appraiser. And this time, like, we are not an AVM. So that means we don't offer automated valuation, and there's no single model that we have to train to come up with some outcome. We have those appraisers. So humans, they perceive information or all the information in the market differently than a model. A model is based on data. So if there are no transactions, then there's no data. That means then what should you do, right? So I guess this is something that is very critical for AVMs at the moment, because there are so few transactions taking place, while our appraisers, they as humans, they can capture much more into their valuation. So they are not based mainly on historic data. They see a lot more than this.
But you have a model, right? So you, of course, you are not an AVM, you are an hybrid, but
Mhm.
you have a part of it is the AVM, no?
No, it's like the calculation is discounted cash flow.
Okay,
So
calculation. Okay, got it. Got
exactly. So it's like we help defining input variables.
it. Right.
And this is where you could say there is a model behind it.
Got it.
But the evaluation is carried out by the appraisers themselves.
Got it. And so from 6 weeks, which you said, with the tech help, what is the average valuation for a mall, so to say? Which would without your technology would take a manual appraiser 6 weeks. What is the change we are talking about?
So our let's say average appraisal time is less than 1 week, including
Hmm,
every step, right? So of course you always have to inspect, and so on. We are pretty fast in this,
got
and
it.
from really ordering an appraisal, setting up the inspection, and so on, we are less than a week to have the full appraisal with everything you need, and all the data that was part of it is then also transferred digitally to you.
Got it. And for you to scale to other countries, you will have to. So it's not like you can just implement it in any other country, right? You have to start from scratch, and help us understand: is this a scalable business which you can just apply to like five countries next year or something like that?
Yeah, so since the calculation basis is discounted cash flow, and this is the same everywhere in the world, we only have to adapt a little. Of course, I mean, one thing that comes with internationalization is that users are international, so you need to have different languages. But
Hmm.
I wouldn't take this into account because this should be done easily. But what is important is, of course, that we need to check whether some input variables for discounted cash flow methods in other countries are different. So we would check this, but it's nothing that we have to build from scratch. It's the same valuation method, the same math, and the same, let's say, appraisal process. It's simply that we need to check a little regulatory differences.
Excellent. So do you have any plans beyond Germany?
Yes, definitely. So we are planning, like we're now in 2023, and in 2024 we are planning to cover 3 to 4 countries more here in Europe, and then so on. So yeah, there's a lot in the pipeline.
Excellent. You recently went to the US. Any plans there?
Not yet, actually. So we, of course, we have yeah, some very nice contacts in the US, but so far we are really looking for Europe, especially. Like this is yeah, this is our basis, and there are, of course, a lot of companies. But yeah, you never know. I mean, one day even the US is interesting for us, but we are at the beginning trying to develop further and further here in all the European countries
But
before
is
we
the
look.
model, have you, I mean, I'm sure you would have been curious, right? So are there hybrid models there also in practice?
Yes, in
Mm.
especially in the US, we know very nice, two nice companies there, and also part of my journey there was meeting them. So yeah, they are older than we are. They are super successful, which is a nice, let's say, proof for us to see that it works what we are doing.
Correct.
And they are at the moment trying to spread all over the US. Of course, like the US is big. Like one of them was starting on the East Coast, the other one was starting on the West Coast, and they are, yeah, let's say, smoothly spreading all over the US country.
Got it. And do you have any competitors with a similar model here in Europe?
There's no similar model here in Europe. What we look at, like especially, of course, is regarding, let's say, potential competitor analysis, is that you can look at it from two sides. Like the one side is standard appraisal software, like software for appraisers that is sold to appraisers. That's the one side you can look at. And the other side is, of course, appraisers themselves.
Mhm.
But with our platform partner model,
Right.
appraisers are no competitors. They are our partners because we work together with them, and they receive mandates from us to work on. So, but yeah, but those are the two different perspectives you can have on the market: appraisal software, like standard software for appraisers, and the appraisers themselves, and we mix both together.
Got it. So, but there will always be place for pure play AVMs because what you mentioned was there is a regulatory need for having hybrid because you need to do manual appraisal because otherwise they will not sign it, they will not qualify it. But then there are places where AVMs are required because they don't need physical appraisers. Do you want to explain the promise and the growth and the value of pure play AVMs?
So, like AVMs, first of all, are more often used in, let's say, the private space. So, for example, me personally, I love to look at those. I mean, there are some for free versions on the market where you simply type, let's say, 5 to 10 input parameters, input variables about your property, and then you get like a rough, let's say, yeah, a rough conclusion. The
Right.
further you are away from cities, the bigger the span gets, right? Like if you, for example, let's say you would have a single family house here in Munich city center, and then the value would be between, let's say, the AVM tells you it's between 3 million to 3.1 million, then you have a good guess. But if you then go with the same property outside of the city, then it can variate from 1.5 million to 3.5 million, and then, like, of course, the result for you personally is, yeah, okay, that's a big span, and this is how it most of the time looks like.
Mm.
Where AVMs are very popular in the B2B space is
Mm.
when you run portfolio analysis.
Got
So
it.
that simply counts into the law of large numbers. So of
Got it.
course, if you don't look at one single property, if you look at a
Got
portfolio, then they can be very accurate. And this
it.
is
Got
super nice. Even banks can use that
got it.
in smaller spaces, but in the end, they always need to have the regulated, certified appraisal in their hands.
That's true. Excellent. Let's now talk about your business model. So how do you price your products for clients? Is it through volume, or is it through individual appraising? Maybe you can let us know.
Yeah, so at the moment we are developing like all of this, right? At the very beginning, when we started our market entry, which was a bit more than half a year ago, we started with only offering super fast and digital appraisals. And now, like, of course, in the meantime, we were developing on our software further and further. So now our customers, they also have their own platform, so they can go onto our platform, have their order management there. And this is where also our pricing model is changing a bit, because
Mm,
so far before that it was a transaction based model,
right.
so
Yes.
pay per appraisal.
Yeah.
While now, with also the software included, it's we are developing further into the T-shirt pricing. So that means SML packages, where
Hmm.
of course a specific number of appraisals is included, but also different types of software features are included. How you know it, like from other software out there, we also have different packages, right, from standard to pro and whatever.
So what would be the differentiator? Like, what would be the differentiator in terms of features? For example, could you give some examples?
Yes, definitely. So, for example, one important feature is the order management. Imagine you are a company and you need to have 100 appraisals a month. Then
Mm,
you probably have 3, 4, or even 5 persons sitting there and doing nothing else than doing the order management, calling
correct.
appraisers, mandating them, sending over documents, receiving appraisals, checking them, and so on, like the standard
Mm,
management process that are also known in e-commerce, for example.
right.
So this is one feature where you have the digital order management, and the software is mandating the appraisers, managing all the documents exchange, data exchange, and so on.
Got it.
Another feature, for example, is that you, after receiving the appraisal, with all the information about market analysis, location analysis, property analysis in it, that you can then use also a tool to analyze it. That means to analyze the data, compare the values in your portfolio, for example,
Mhm. Got it.
see which values have been dropping, which values have been increasing, and all of this, comparing the rents, comparing all the costs you had, for example. So that means analysis, data analysis features.
Got it. Um, Help us understand, since this is a business podcast, whenever a new founder entrepreneur comes in with a new product which is somewhat disruptive, how do you get into the market? Like, how do you get your early customers? uh, how do you convince them, and stuff like that? So what have been your lessons of acquiring your first few customers?
I would say one of the most important points at the beginning is to know your ICP. I
Mm,
think it's something that you hear quite often, right? But
yeah,
I think most of the time, people that, like, for example, in my case, people would say, "Oh yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, it's real estate funds and banks and so on." But this
yeah.
is not the case, and this is exactly what I was just trying to explain. With we started with only appraisals. Now we are also selling parts of the software and so on, because this really, really actually relates to only the fact that we were able to define clear ICPs, because there are people are different, and even though it might seem they all need the same, they all are different, and you need to really go deep and really dive deep. And I think that was the main basis for us, because we identified that it's not vertically, like it's not, oh, we have an ICP for real estate funds, we have an ICP for banks. We found out that we have to look at it horizontally. That
Mm,
means companies with less than 100 properties, companies with 100 to 500 properties and so
Mm.
on. So that was a completely different view, and that was eye-opening, because then we
But
realized,
why would the requirement change with volume? Why?
for example, the volume, for example, has an impact on if you want to analyze further or not. Like if you are a small company and you have, like, say 10 properties, you need 10 appraisals a year, because you need to reevaluate them every year. Then probably the value of such an analysis tool is not too big, because it's a
Mm.
small amount of properties,
Yeah.
and so on. So we realized that this is and also your problems with order management are not
Mm.
so big. Like 10
Right.
times a year, of course, you can call the appraiser on the phone, right?
Right.
And like things like that. There are also different types, but yeah, it's something that we learned. So yeah, ICP was definitely one of the biggest things, and it took some time. Even though we both are from the industry, we were
Mm.
like, of course we know everything. No, we didn't. Yeah, and then the next step definitely was a clear messaging. So how can you nail it? How can you really nail what the person you are speaking to wants to hear and what is in need of? And that was, yeah, like the classical, you needed to train messaging. What messages? Because for every single ICP, we have had a different or slightly different messaging. And yeah, and then trying to build, and this was something, and we are still about to do it, like building up a sales machine, like something that is reproducible, um, and every new team member in the sales team can easily adapt. And this is something that we are still, and probably will for a while, working on. But yeah, those were like the first steps we took, and ICP was really, really important. We had some great coaches helping us in this, and yeah, that's mainly it.
Talking about coaches and mentors, so you had a brilliant idea. Okay, you had a PhD, so nobody knows this more than you. So you had that confidence. But building a business is a different ball game altogether, right? So did you try to complement your strengths with getting some mentors and coaches? Could you shed some light there?
Definitely. So, and I would definitely recommend it, even though as a fund manager, I also had a lot to do with, yeah, the business stuff. But yeah, that was way more than simply this. So what helped me the most was speaking to experienced founders who have been on the same, yeah, actually, yeah, on the same journey. That was the most important thing. And what I found out for myself with mentors and coaches and so on is the only thing that really helped me was speaking to people that are hands-on. There are so many people out there trying to explain to you something on the highest level. So yeah, you, in the end, you need to have like this and this. But people who came to me were like, Christina, okay, now take paper and pen, and now look at Google and Google for this word, and then you will do this, and then you will do this. And it was like really hands-on. But this was exactly what I needed, because in the end, speaking on a high level, on a, let's say, strategic level, is nice. But what I really needed to know is the easy stuff that is, or operational stuff even, that is maybe for most of the person that it's clear, but if you've never done it before, you would never know. And I really appreciated this hands-on feedback the most.
But where do you get these helpful founders and coaches? Like, is there a marketplace where you can hire them?
So, like first thing I did was, when I had the idea to found Einwert, I was approaching a startup community here in Munich. So that was closely related to Technical University Munich, which is where I did my PhD at. So I had a contact. I was, yeah, trying to get into this ecosystem, and they were offering. For early founders, like even pre-product, and yeah, pre-revenue, of course, as well. They were offering, yeah, some very nice coachings and mentorings, and also an incubator. So I was applying with my idea, with my business plan. I was applying for an incubator, and by this I got a lot of very valuable contacts, contacts to business angels, but also to other founders. They were part of this incubator program, was different coaching sessions of every part of building a startup, about marketing, about sales, about product, about legal stuff, which actually is also a big part of it, right? Especially at the beginning and all this, and that was helpful.
Got it. So let's talk about how this space is evolving, because as a founder, you are always looking at the cutting edge disruption.
Yep.
Where do you think the disruption is going to happen in this space, on the valuation space? Where do you see in the next 3-4 years the biggest changes happening here?
So I am pretty sure, and this is also why we are on this mission with Einwert. I think one of the biggest disruption in this industry will be what we also now see in many other industries, the integration of advanced technologies like artificial intelligence. So what we also already now have with AVMs, for example, this will be a big part, and it will disrupt a lot. And which is also a reason why we started this journey with Einwert, because we are driven by advanced technologies, right? We are trying to change the industry dynamics, and that's mainly it. And I think this is something that will change a lot, even though nowadays AVMs are already strong, and we've seen that in so many cases, but there will be much more. I could imagine that even one day, I'm not talking about the next 5 years, but that one day, appraisers will be replaced.
Nice. Let's talk about your fundraising story. I'm not aware at all about your fundraising story. Maybe you can shed some light there.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, after that time at the incubator, of course, we had, let's say, very strong connections through that time. We had at the end of the incubator that was lasting 3 months, we also had a big demo day pitch with I think more than 500 people from the not real estate industry, but from the startup industry were invited, because we were in this incubator. We were 10 startups from different industries, not only real estate. And by this, I was getting in contact with a lot of potential investors like VCs, business angels, and so on. But I decided at the beginning to apply for a public funding here in Germany, and I would definitely recommend to any founder out there to really always look for public funding. It's for free. You don't have to give them equity or so. So if you are able to get it, the money is there, right? And it's a good basis. So this is
very, very important. How do you get public funding here in Germany?
So there are very, very many public fundings out there. So different contests. Some are nationwide, some are statewide only. So some Bavarian stuff, for example, and some that is in whole Germany. And there is a database. I think you can simply Google it. And with all possible public fundings out there, you have some very good filter options. So I was looking for what was like, where do we fit into? And then one of the most popular things here in Germany is called Exist. It lasts for 1 year, and they pay 3 salaries. Actually, all other stuff, all other invoices you have during that time, I think up to, I don't remember the exact number, but up to 100,000 or so. So it's quite a lot of money. And this is what we applied for. It's a lot of bureaucracy, like everything in Germany. So applying for it took a while, but in the end we received it, and that was the best thing that could have happened, because then also my co-founder, he was able to quit his job, and we were able to build Einwert full time, and that was a very, very big step and very important to us. And during that time we also had the time to build up our funding story, to build up everything we weren't able to build before, preparing for that, building up a network. And this is what I would also recommend to any founder. Don't start fundraising from scratch. Start to build a network first. Try to meet the people now and then for coffee, because in the end, like in sales, it's humans that you are talking to. And if you build strong relationships, this whole journey will be so much easier. So I was starting this very early, even before we wanted to start getting a funding, because we wanted to build a bit more, right? So I was talking to a lot of them. I was always asking them for intros to other VCs, to other angels. So I was trying to build a network, and that worked out pretty well. It took a while. Of course, I was building up this network for 6 to 9 months. And after 9 months, I had so many contacts, and they were asking me all the time. So how is it going? What are you now doing? So what has happened in the last 3 months since we last spoke? And this is something where you can really build up a very great story, because you
So
can show your
help
traction.
me help me understand this bit. Very important that you mentioned. Eventually, it's all about the power of your idea, the power of your business model. All right. If it is really good, you will uh, get the source of capital access. When you're building a relationship, what changes? Because the business idea is the same. Somebody has a very good business model, he would anyways get access to capital. Or am I missing something here?
Yes, you are missing one of the most important components. For at the beginning, for pre-product or very very early stage companies, the most important thing I would say in this whole system is the team. So if the team is great, if they are great people, if they really have the ambition to do something, like if they are burning for their idea, and if they are people who really really want to do it, then you will probably get an investment, because of course your business idea also counts into that, right? But I think what is behind it, and that makes total sense for me, if I would now invest in another company, uh, I would first of all look at the team to see if, even though this idea wouldn't work out, if they would be able to pivot. Like, would they do anything else? Because it's the team, and of course, business idea is nice and important, but it's most about the team.
Got it. So in this journey, what have been your biggest highs and lows? This is my favorite question. Okay. Um, Usually, when you are navigating, every startup is a navigation of uncertainty, right? So what have been your biggest highs? I know the journey is still short. Okay, and which were the lows when you began this journey?
Yeah, maybe I start with the lows. I always want to end with the highs. So, I think at the beginning, as a no name in the market, it was really, really hard, to hire great people.
Hmm.
So, you have nothing, like you are nobody, and you still need to convince people, and not only convincing them, but to take them on this journey with you. You need really 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 be convincing, so that people are as passionate as you about it, because the first team members are the most important, and if they are not as passionate as you are, this whole thing probably won't work out in the end, because everyone needs to go extra miles, a lot of extra miles. That's simply what it is. You don't have that much budget, right? So you can't pay like Google or Amazon salaries. That's simply not possible. And still you want to get the best talent. And that was really tough. That was a hard time, and so frustrating, because you are contacting so many people. You are having great conversations, and in the end, like, it's like, no, I would love to wait half a year and see how it's going. So of course there are so many people out there who need security, which is fair. Like, no problem. But that was really one of the lows, I would say. And like, the highest high that we had was the success we celebrated when having our market entry half a year ago. We were so impressed and also so surprised that the demand was immediately that high. We didn't expect that to come, so fast. And that was something that was, really encouraging and really, really, really nice to see. And in the meantime, we were driving a roller coaster constantly. So we had high, the next, like, it was like the best day ever, and on the next day, everything goes wrong. There's a problem with the product or with the customer or whatever. And I think this is something I learned. The biggest learning I had from all those highs and lows is you need to have endurance. And
Mm.
one thing I always tell myself is go on. Simply go on. Even in fundraising, in sales, in hiring, never give up. It's really, really, really important to have endurance. And this is something I needed to learn because that was really tough.
So help me understand when it's a low day, when say a key person left or a key investor is not there. Obviously, you will feel low, right? So, what is your strategy? How do you pick yourself up? What's your strategy? How do you navigate when it's suddenly gloomy and dark? I don't ask this to successful entrepreneurs. I ask this to early entrepreneurs because I can empathize with them. But help us understand what's going in your mind then.
I try, first of all, and this is something I learned from one of my mentors. I first of all try to find out what is wrong with myself in that moment to feel like this. So it's called the saboteurs. So try to find your inner saboteur that is telling you now that everything is bad. And then if you found out like where this is coming from, and it's in the end, it's a feeling, right? It's an emotional thing that's going on there, and you need to figure it out. And if you're able to do that, then I always try to see the gift. And this is something with this roller coaster we are riding on constantly. I found that everything in my life that was really bad. I'm not talking only about the founding story. It was like anything I had, everything in the end was a gift. And this is a very interesting thing to look at. And maybe if we have the time, there's one so nice analogy I would love to share.
Please, please,
Is
please.
if you look at the farmer, and this farmer has a horse, and because he needs a horse for all the acres, to be done. And one day he goes to a race, and you can imagine what happened. The horse won the first prize, and the farmer was rich all of a sudden, and everyone was approaching him and telling you, "Hey, farmer, so nice. I mean, that's the most amazing thing that could happen." And he was like, "Well, what's good, what's bad? Who am I to judge?" And the next day, the horse got stolen, and so he had no horse for the race, but also no horse for his job. And then everyone approaches him and was like, "Oh God, farmer, I'm so sorry for you. That's like the worst thing that could have happened." And he was like, "What's good? What's bad? Who am I to judge?" And you wait, what happened the next day? The horse was coming back and bringing another horse with him, with it, like because it was obviously stolen, but from the place it escaped, it took another horse with it, and so on. And this is how good or bad things can
Yeah.
evolve every time in life. And there's so much going on, and this is something you should always have in mind. That really, really helps to look at situations and try to zoom out as much as
Right.
you can.
Because when you're going through something bad, and mind is such a thing, it can trick you, and you just explain something to the mind, and within the next hour you are alive, isn't it? Because it's like a season, okay? Something is going wrong in your mind, and you do not know how to navigate. You cover yourself in the sheet, and you go and hit the bed, and then you wake up, and then you tell a different story to the mind. No, 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 I think this is how it is. And suddenly everything is fresh. It's like sunshine coming into the clouds.
Yeah.
But Christina, thank you so much for sharing your wealth of wisdom. By the way, how does the next few months or year next, how does next year look to you for Einwert?
So we are at the moment trying to expand our offerings. So we are working heavily on our product to get more and more into the software that we are able to deliver to the customer. So not only appraisals, but also this part. And next year it's internationalization year. So trying to conquer new grounds and new countries in the pipeline.
Thank you so much, Christina. Well, this brings us to the end of a very, very fascinating conversation with Christina. We did not just cover the technical part of it, but we also talked about how to build a startup and stuff like this. So, lots of fascinating context there from Christina. Thank you for your time, and it was all worth the wait for me, at least. So, with that, thanks again for being on my show.
Thank you so much for having me, Ravi. It was a pleasure to being here today.
See you around, Christina. Bye bye.